Okay, moto. I mean, we're talking about anatomies here. What was moto attracted to?
Lumpy.
How do you, yeah, hefty. Girl, you are chunky. I like them huge. and before we get to Melman, what was happening? She was asking moto before things get serious. What is she really asking for? Girl, ladies, don't say anything. Because guys, you guys are dumb. You just don't know how dumb you are.
Oh.
I promise you. You guys are slow. I promise you, you're slow. You just, in all humility, just say, okay, and acknowledge that you're slow. I meet more guys in here, in my life actually, that they're not that deep. They're not that deep. They think they're deep, but they're not. You're deep as far as what a guy thinks is deep, but you're not able to touch a girl's heart. When we get to the Father by God class, I'm going to show you guys what it means to be a lover. And that's going to be in like 2, maybe 3 weeks. You don't want to miss this class. I might teach it at the church because I definitely want 3-6 to get this before they leave. What is she asking for? What does she want when she says, before things get too serious?
How deep does he know her?
Give me more. Wait, let me say this. The reason why I'm telling you most guys are stupid, you just are. I promise you, I was stupid too. Matter of fact, I'm 61, and I understand that when I'm 62 and 63, I'll look back at 61 and say, 61-year-old Nick was stupid. Because I'm growing all the time and learning all the time, and the more I learn, the more I realize I'm stupid. I promise you. Last thing on how stupid guys are. Most guys will say, they'll either call me or they'll tell me they're in a relationship and they're thinking about marriage. And I said, one question, what's the purpose of a husband? And that's the housebound and all this stuff. What's going to be your purpose as a husband? And they say this every single time. I'm the spiritual leader of the house. And I said, oh yeah? Where are you going spiritually? Show me your Bible study time. What's that like? Pretty dead, if I'm being honest. What's your prayer time like? Dead. So you're going nowhere spiritually, but you're supposed to lead her spiritually. You're a poser. And you're going to make a woman miserable. This is the common denominator in marriages today. It's usually the guy's fault, and guys are clueless about. When we do marriage counseling, and we have couples that are on the brink of divorce, and I promise you, I'm not bragging on myself, but my wife and I were pretty direct. I don't need to psychoanalyze you for your last 20, 30 years of life to get to the point. I just need to talk to you, ask you a few questions, because the bottom line is, where's Christ in this relationship? And one of the first questions we always ask couples when we meet them is, ask the husband every time, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your marriage like right now? And every single time in ministry, husbands say, we're not perfect. I say 8. We're an 8. And he's just gloating about how great things are in the marriage while we're in marriage counseling. And then turn to the woman. What's the marriage like? Scale of 1 to 10. She says, 0. There's nothing there to hold on to. And every single time the man's face falls, like, what? And then he's starting to get a clue. He's oblivious to what's going on because he doesn't know how to tap in and meet her needs. Now, coming back to the question, what were you saying about moto? And Gloria, what did Gloria want?
She wanted him to know her deeper.
What does that mean?
To really study her.
What am I looking for?
Everything about her.
And see, most guys, we're lazy. I got you already. We're married. You're like a trophy. Put you on the shelf. Because she's asking long term, what kind of investment are you? Long term, can you make me happy long term? I was telling Sandy on Saturday, I love that woman. I love that woman, man. I was telling Sandy on Saturday at the church that, what did I say? Oh, in front of everybody. She happened to poke her head around the corner. I said, I didn't write the book of love, but I read it every day just to learn how to be a better man for you. She has to put up with this all the time. One time I told her, I said, you could never leave me. And I meant this. I said, you could never leave me. She said, why not? I said, because if you ever tried to leave me, I'm going with you. I mean this. You think I'm kidding. If she ever leaves me and goes back home to her mom's house, I'm going to be right there with her. And I tell her this stuff all the time because one, I feel it, and two, I know she needs to hear it. Exactly what I feel for her. I'm telling you, I get. You ever seen a puppy wag his tail when the master comes home, the dad or whatever, man comes home or whatever, the owner? And dude, that's me. Sandy could be out doing whatever she does, shopping, whatever, commissary, whatever, and then part of me is just every single time surprised she keeps coming back. She'll come back and I hear the keys in the door and unlocking the door. I'm like, dude, she keeps coming back. What's up with that? Dude, this is amazing. You came back. She's got the passports, money. She's got, but she keeps coming back. And I mean this. I'm appreciative of her affections and her love. Moto couldn't give that to Gloria, and that's what she was finding out. Like, for real, what do you really see? He said, well, you're chunky. What else? You are the heftiest, the plumpiest. And nothing was there. What did Melman do? Quickly. Did Melman know her?
Yes.
How?
You know how to use her, like, not only like the physical, but like what she
Where's the proof? What did he say?
she likes bread with the thing on the side.
Butter.
A thing on the side? Just a thing? This guy, yes,
Toast butter on each side.
6 loaves of bread, no crust, wheat bread. What kind of lilies?
Orchids.
White. Orchids or lilies?
Orchids.
Orchids? And then he says she has the most amazing laugh. I'd spend every day trying to figure out how to make her laugh because I need to hear her laugh. And Gloria and all the other hippos, what'd they do? Oh, they melted. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever. That's what women need. Oh man, when we get to this Fathered by God series, I pray to God you don't miss it, because just a preview. Most men, your biggest struggle is with your strength. What that means is, men struggle with this their entire lives. Am I adequate? Am I strong enough? Am I smart enough? Am I capable? Can I get out of this? Life is like a puzzle. Can I figure this out? Most men deal with this. Am I strong enough? Most women deal with, am I beautiful enough? We're going to break this down in the weeks to follow. You guys got this? All right, so here we go. Song of Solomon, he says, drink deeply and enjoy. This is where God said that after they had sex, and he watched them have sex. I'll get to this in one of the future classes. When they had sex, afterwards, they're both laying back, smoking cigarettes, chilling. They're like enjoying the moment, the glow. And God had just told them, drink deeply and enjoy. He says, I approve of what you're doing. That's where that question comes from on the sex test. How much of your sex has God approved? Because God says, I approve of what you're doing, which means I bless what you're doing. There's more. Okay. We already talked about sex and dominion. Be fruitful, multiply, have dominion. And just to start with, this is very, very important. Jen, somebody read that up there, nice and loud.
Then equals that which produces Genesis, genitals, gender, gene, generator, generate, all that too, or just.
Sure.
Okay. Well, generation, genocide, oxygen, hydrogen, and genocide.
Okay, we're going to start with Jen. This is that word right there, Jen. It literally means, don't ever forget this. Gen means that which produces. Get it right there? Genesis, genitals, gender, gene, generator, generation, genocide, oxygen, hydrogen, antigen. Got it?
Oh.
Gen, because we're talking about anatomies. Talking about anatomies. That which produces. For the record, there are only 2 genders. This whole confusion, God's not confused. Progressives, liberals, and Democrats are confused. And some Republicans. They're confused. Godless people are confused. Some Christians are even confused. God is not confused. The Word of God is not confused. There's 2 genders, male and female. It's really, really simple. But anyway. So, you need to understand something. As we jump into this, I'll get to that antigen thing in a second. As we get into this, men have what's called a penis. And if you study this out in the Hebrew, what it means it's a lance. It's a thing that pierces. You see the symbolism? That's what in the Hebrew. But if you read Genesis 24:2, we won't go there, but it's related. Your penis, men, your penis is related to your identity and swearing. What does that mean? Quickly. Your penis, your sexual organ is directly related to your identity and this notion of swearing. promises, covenants. What? Come on, quickly, somebody.
Marriage.
That's part. Who said that? That's partly true. What does it have to do with your identity? It's so simple. It's so simple. Come on, guys. What's the first thing when the baby is born? What's the first thing that's pronounced, declared upon you? Congratulations, it's a boy or a girl based on what? That which produces. They look at that which produces. And I got to always say this because there's always somebody in here who says, oh yeah, what about hermaphrodites? First of all, you're an idiot. To bring up something so rare. It's like 1 in 200,000. It's the exception, not the rule. But I run into you people all the time, and you say, well, and then I'll ask them, do you personally know any hermaphrodites? And they'll lie and say, yeah, you're a liar. I say that to your face, you're a liar. And so I have to cover that. This whole thing about hermaphrodites. And the reality with hermaphrodites, those are the ones that are born with both sexes, right? What happens, if you didn't know this, when they reach puberty, they tend to gravitate to male or female, one side or the other. At which point they decide, the families decide, it is more male, or she is more female. And then they'll supplement that thing. Go ahead.
It's also always just a combination of the two. It's never anything else.
Right, it's not a complete... It's not a complete vagina with a penis, and it's not like that. Then porn images you pull up and look at. I get the porn. Porn is a big lie. Who has, I seen somebody with a tattoo that said fantasy and reality. Who was that? Was that you, Juan? It was somebody on Saturday. He got fantasy and reality right here. He says he chooses fantasy over reality. Who was that? It wasn't, I'm going to find out who it is, because he should be here. But no, that's what porn is. Porn is fantasy. I'll break that down what porn really is. It's all fantasy. It's all a lie. And so, identity. Your sexual organ is directly related to your identity. It means your identity starts with when you're formed in your mama's womb and then you're born. They said, it's a boy. It's a male. Based on your penis. Swearing. You read this in the Bible. There was a time when Jewish culture, Isaac, let me see, who was it? Who's married? Abraham. Abraham had a son, and Abraham was, or was it Isaac? I can't remember. One of the patriarchs in the Bible. It'll come to me in a second. But his son, yeah, it was Abraham and Isaac. Abraham brought his servant to him and said, I want you to go back to my tribe and find a wife for my son Isaac. That's in Genesis 24:2. But you must swear to me that you're going to do exactly what I told you to do. She must come from my tribe. And to close the deal, he told the servant, put your hand on my thigh and swear to me that you'll keep this covenant. Now, who knows what a euphemism is? It's sort of a metaphor. What are you going to say? It's a softer way, a polite way of saying something crass. It's like instead of saying grandma dead, you say grandma passed away. Instead of saying somebody farted, you say they passed gas. Right? So a euphemism, put your hand on my thigh, it's a euphemism for put your hand on my sexual organ, put your hand on my penis and swear. That's literally what that means. So back in the old school day, they would say, put your hand on my penis and swear to me that you'll do what I've asked you to do. And it was not perverted or anything like that. Today, don't do it. Don't do it today, guys, because you're like, swear to me. Don't do it. But they knew how important their sexual organ was. They knew their identity, their lineage, their future, their generations. Yeah, exactly, the witnesses. Everything was in your sexual organ. Your future. Everything was right there. So there's that. So that's your... When Abraham was circumcised, his name was Abram at first, but then his name got changed to Abraham after he was circumcised. God says, we're going to do a new thing. And just to fast forward, he said, we're going to do a new thing. He says, I want that. Dedicate your sexual organ to me. Now this is really peculiar because why? Why didn't God say, give me your heart, give me your mind, give me your eyes, give me your lips, your speech, give me your feet, give me your life? He didn't say any of that. He said, give me that. Dedicate your sexual organ to me. Why? Come on. Identity, give me more. Go ahead. There's so much potential there. I'll get to that in a second.
It's generative.
It's definitely generative. Go ahead. That's huge right there. What he's saying, because this is the thing that God says run from. What is it? No, this is the thing that God says run from. He says flee fornication, run from sexual sins because you don't want to fail here. He said, but at the same token, if we can get control of that in your life, then we can get control of your life. If your sexuality is not intact, you're not going to rule well. Remember this dominion thing? All right, so there's that. Now, covenant, you guys need to hear this. What's that guy's name who just left? Adam. Make sure somebody tell him this because he's going to miss this. Everybody look at this. Because we're talking about circumcision right now. When a person is circumcised, a boy, let's say a newborn baby, 8 days old, whatever, he's getting circumcised. What happens right away? What's the procedure? Quickly. You cut the flesh. That's the first thing that happens. The flesh is cut. Right? And what's the second thing that happens? Blood. There's blood. So there's a splitting of the flesh and then there's blood. And this is what happened in the Old Testament. When they cut the foreskin, they took a blade and they cut that foreskin and the flesh was split in two and then there was bloodshed. Why blood? Go ahead.
Because every time God had a covenant with someone, it was always like wrapped in blood.
Blood is important. Why blood?
Blood represents life.
That's exactly right. Blood, without the shedding of a blood. What's in the, I think it's Leviticus. Basically, blood is life. Blood is life. You're exchanging your life. And so the reason why I'm putting this up here is because when a male gets circumcised, circumcision was cutting covenant with God and man, splitting his flesh, bloodshed. Right? Blood represents covenant. Covenant is more than a contract. Covenant is life. What ends up happening when a man penetrates a woman, he's doing symbolically almost the same thing. What am I talking about? When a man penetrates a woman, he splits her flesh. And there's always blood present when people have sex, men and women, because there's arousal. Generally speaking, there's arousal. Matter of fact, a guy must be aroused to penetrate. And I know some of you probably, challenge accepted. I'm going to try, flaccid penis. It's not going to work. Good luck with that. It's challenge accepted. I know some of you pervs. What I'm telling you is that what ends up happening when circumcision with God and man, he split the flesh and there was bloodshed. Covenant between a man and a woman, he penetrates her, he splits her flesh, and there's bloodshed. Now, if she was a virgin, her hymen gets split. I'll get to that in a second, and there's bloodshed. But even after she's no longer a virgin, there's still blood present. If there's arousal in the woman also, then blood rushes to her organ too. This is the way God created it. Blood must be present when you have sex. Blood must be present when you have sex because there's an exchange of life. Blood represents life. All right? Making sense? All right. There it is. I knew it. Somebody read Leviticus 17:11. I can't remember the scripture. I know it off the top of my head. Somebody, first one, read it nice and loud. It's like the third book of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus.
For the life of the flesh is in the blood.
Nice and loud.
For the life of the flesh is in the blood.
There you go.
And I have given it to you upon the altar to make atonement for your souls.
There you go.
For it is the blood that makes atonement for the soul.
You hear that? Life of the flesh is in the blood. Matter of fact, if we didn't have blood in our bodies, what's going to happen to us? Die. So that's why blood rushes to your sexual organ to bring forth life. And what do? We pervert it. Now check this out. This is blood rushes to your organ. Then you have this thing called an erection. This thing, erection, used to be a respected thing. When things, you need to understand what an erection is. And most of the time when you hear erection today, most of us are so conditioned to be perv about it that you can't even have these conversations because these sexual innuendos come up and your mind is so polluted that you can't even have a conversation without going somewhere else when a word is mentioned. You guys know what I'm talking about? Matter of fact, just the word come, like if I said, she came over here. Some of you like, giggle, you say came. Or if I say something, oh man, that's really hard. I try not to use that word hard in here. Because some of you, you said hard. So I use the word difficult instead. Right? And so we get off track, and I don't want you to be off track here. So where this is concerned with this thing erection, it was a sign of respect. Now think about this. What happens when a judge enters a courtroom? All rise. Why do we rise? Respect the office. What about the national anthem?
All right.
It's a sign of respect. I may not agree with it, but it's a sign of respect. What about when, I don't know if you guys still do this anymore. Is it flag officers or just colonels?
06.
Would you do it for an 01?
No.
You guys, 02, 03,
No.
04?
No.
You guys are rough, man. We had to do it for everybody, but you guys, so it's basically field grade and above, maybe? Yeah, okay, 06. But why? Attention on deck, and everybody stands too. Why?
Respect.
It's respect. What about when the bride comes into the church? Everyone stands up. It's a sign of respect. What about when like the Brooklyn Bridge, you know that when they put on one of the cornerstones, they put erected in 1908 or something like that. Erected. And everybody stood back in awe, like, wow. But today, when we talk about erection, it's no longer respectful. We just, admire our erection in the mirror and things like that and play with ourselves. You guys know, some of you ain't moving. Now, I already told you about the testicles, right? What does testicles mean?
Witnesses.
Those are your witnesses. And they're put right there because they witness the sacred act of marriage. That's why your testicles aren't right there. Or right here. Or right here. He put them right there because they're witnesses. They witness sex, marriage. Semen. Okay. Where semen is concerned, on one climactic ejaculation, how many seed do you think you produce? How many do you think? 200 million. How many do you think? 300 million. How many do you think? 400 million. Oh, he's going to have to do it. 401 million. It's on average, it's anywhere, and this is very important. One climactic release, on average, it's anywhere from 180 million to 210 million spermatosome. That is like 2/3 of the population of the United States in one puddle of semen. That's how many seed is in there. That's a lot of potential, that's why I got potential up there. Well, it's not up there yet. Let's talk about potential for a second. Somebody mentioned potential back here. When a man has a low sperm count, they say he's not very potent. Why?
Not enough chances.
Because there's not a lot of potential in what you're firing. But if a man has a high sperm count, they say he's very potent because of the potential. How much potential is in 200 million possibilities? Yeah, it's phenomenal. And so this is why it says we're potent. Man is potent. And it's interesting to know that God is omnipotent. Omni means all. He's all powerful. So there's this guy right here spilled his semen and God slew him because he wasted his semen. He was supposed to impregnate his brother because he was supposed to impregnate his brother's wife. Her husband had died, and according to Jewish customs and law, the next brother in line, when he became of age, he was supposed to have sex with the widow and bring forth seed in his brother's name. This guy Onan, he withdrew himself and spilled his seed on the ground. Very next verse, God killed him. God killed him. What do we do with our seed? What do we do with our semen? I already know we waste it. We waste it. This right here, there's a big argument going on right now. Anti-gen. If gen is that which produces, what is anti-gen?
Destroys.
That which destroys. And science today, liberal science today, is arguing that semen is an anti-gen. They're lying to you, but what's their motive? Why are they saying this?
It's being misused.
What do you mean? Quickly.
It's put in places that it shouldn't be in.
What does that mean? You're exactly right.
Anal.
Or ingesting. I'm not talking about oral sex. I'm talking about ingesting semen. What happens if semen, there's only Semen is so powerful. A man's semen is so powerful that there's only one place on a human body, a female body, that can withstand the potency of male sperm. That's her vagina. And what ends up happening, when you release your semen into a woman's vagina, you mark her. Your DNA is present with her forever. I'll talk about this in a second, microchimerism. And so when you release yourself into a woman, your DNA is embedded in her vaginal walls, and it travels up her bloodstream and even goes into her brain. It's called microchimerism. Look it up. What ends up happening, a man's semen, it actually tattoos the inside of a woman's vagina. And that's where it's supposed to go, and that's what it's supposed to do. Remember, the two shall become one? It's deeper than we realize. The two shall become one. You became one with her, and you can't undo that. Your DNA will be present with her always. They found these women, they've done the study of these women who are 50, 60, 70 years old, and where'd the DNA from these men come from? And they think it came from her pregnancy. She was never pregnant. Oh, where'd it come from? It's obvious. You got male DNA. Where'd it come from? Your sexual partners. And they don't want to release this information. I've been studying this over the last 15 years, and they're starting to hide it now because they're getting exposed. Type it in, you'll find it, huh?
It's hard to find.
It is hard to find, but you just dig around, and because most of them say they won't give you all the details. They'll just tell you it's a phenomenon, but they won't give you all the details. Dig around, you'll read it, you'll find it. So getting back to this antigen, what they're calling it an antigen is because what happened particularly in the homosexual community, when semen is released in an anus, it actually destroys. And the average lifespan of some of these homosexuals who are very, very promiscuous is about 35, 40 years old. But no one tells you this. They just said, oh, it's love, Pride Month. And they tell you, man, they have so many partners. It's off. Their partners that they have are off the charts. Just so you know, on average, the heterosexual female, she has anywhere, on average, 3 to 5 partners in a lifetime. Some females have more, some have less. I know a lot of females with only 1 or 2 partners in a lifetime. I know a lot of females who've had, dozens of partners in a lifetime. That's female heterosexuals. Male straights, they average anywhere from 10 to 15 partners in a lifetime. And some of you saying, well, not because I haven't been trying. There are some guys I know who've only had 1 or 2 partners in a lifetime, but I know a whole lot of guys who've had 3 or 4 or 5 dozen partners in a lifetime, right? But the average is 10 to 15. Homosexuals, the lowest counts start at 3 and 400. 3 and 400. And they lose count. And they have studies. I've got so many studies I can show you. They've got studies where some groups that they've surveyed and studied up to 3,000 and 4,000 partners. Homosexuals. And just so you know, the reason why they're having so much more sex, anybody know? Because it's not complicated. Why are homosexuals have a lot more sex than heterosexuals? It's not because we're not trying.
Consequence.
Huh?
No consequence.
Not quite. No, that's not it. It's simpler than that. You're getting closer. Go ahead, Grant. What do you mean? See, one of the questions I put on a sex test sometimes, between males and females, who thinks about sex more? It's a trick question. Between male and females, who thinks about sex more? See, it's a trick question. We think about it equally, but we think about it differently. Let me put it like this. Who thinks about emotional sex more? Women, without a doubt. Who thinks about physical sex more? Men, without a doubt. We just saw moto, right? And so what I'm getting at, where you have 2 homosexuals, there's nothing intimate about it. It's just an act. It's physical. It's all physical. And what Grant just said, you have agreement. Because he's a man, testosterone, horny all the time. He's a man, testosterone, horny all the time. Agreement. They have sex all the time. Whereas a straight male trying to get with a straight woman, a little more complicated. But, anyway. But now they're saying it's an antigen because when you ingest semen, it begins to eat the stomach lining. I'm not talking about oral sex. There's a difference between just oral sex versus ingesting semen, or if you deposit semen in an anus, in a rectum, it gets in the bloodstream very quickly. Corman, you guys do silver bullets still? You guys know what silver bullets are? The first time, I think I was a PFC or Lance Corporal, and I went to sick call, whatever, something was wrong with my stomach, and the corpsman, he told me, he said, drop your drawers and whatnot. I said, what are you doing? He's putting on these gloves, and I thought he was gay. My corpsman, I thought he was gay. I was like really already suspicious. And I said, what are you doing? And he says, well, you're going to get this silver bullet. And I didn't know what a silver bullet was. And he showed me. I said, what are you going to do with that? He says, it has to go up your rectum. And I said, oh, no, this ain't happening. And so they put in my record, SNM, said name Marine, refused treatment. Because I didn't know what it was. I mean, years later, you find out what it is. It's the quickest way to get medicine into your bloodstream, right through your anus, because it goes right into your bloodstream. Yeah, and so what happens when you have fecal matter and semen right there going through your anus? All kind of diseases. The diseases are off the charts. I don't say this with any degree of insensitivity. I have homosexual friends who I love, but I love them enough to tell them the truth. Keep the door open. You want to change the lifestyle? Come back. I'll talk to you. I love you. I'll pray with you. I'll hang out with you. I don't have a problem with that. But I don't. You bring it up. I'm never going to condone it, because the Bible doesn't condone it. There's that. Okay. Masturbation, is that a thing? Traumatic masturbatory syndrome. What about my size? Contracting STDs. Bottom line here, where masturbation is concerned, that word, because people argue it's harmless. Matter of fact, we have guys who are stressed out, and I know doctors down there on Foster. It used to be on Camp Lester, where the hospital was there, but now it's on Foster. Doctors are prescribing pornography and masturbation if you're stressed out. They're prescribing masturbation. Go rub one out. You're stressed? Rub one out. And they think it's therapeutic, it's recreational. No, it's not. Study the word out. Anybody know what masturbation means? It's a compound word. Go ahead. Say again? That's literally what it means. Manus, hand, stuprare. It's a Latin word. You put it together. Defile yourself with your hand. It means self-abuse. And just so you know, to be technically sound here, you cannot masturbate somebody else. You can fondle somebody else, but you can only masturbate yourself. I hear people say, masturbate me. You can't do that. What are you talking about? Masturbation is self-abuse. Original definitions. Today, you pull it up on Google or something like that, it'll tell you recreational, therapeutic, self-pleasure. No, the original definition meant self-abuse. And so, no, it's not okay to masturbate. And I've got people over here who say, they come out here on UDP and they say, well, is it okay to masturbate to images of my wife? Why don't you pray and ask God that? No. So, well, and I've had some people here who said, well, if I masturbate here while I'm on UDP, then that helps me to relieve all this pressure. That way, when I do go out in town, I'm not going to fool around. So I have to masturbate so I don't fool around. Dude, you're a special kind of problem, because that's another lie. Go ahead, Grant.
I was just going to say, that's why Viagra is like a multi-billion-dollar business, because dudes ever since young teens up until their 40s, 50s programmed.
That's what this is right here. TMS, traumatic masturbation. That's what he's talking about. TMS. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's only become a problem like erectile dysfunction with young people since porn has existed. Like internet pornography specifically.
Yeah. Guys,
It didn't used to be an issue with young people.
this is happening right now. Traumatic masturbatory syndrome, which means the only way you can achieve ejaculation, I didn't say climax or orgasm, I said ejaculation. The only way you can achieve ejaculation is with your hand and looking at porn. I have married men, husbands who good-looking wives, they can't have sex with their wives. It doesn't work. Nothing happens. But they can go masturbate and in 5 minutes be done. That means you've conditioned your penis to your hand. That's it. Nothing else will work. This is very common today. And so if you're dealing with masturbation and pornography right now, you're setting yourself up for a lot of unhappiness. Because you want sex. You want a lot of sex. You want good sex. Best sex you'll ever have, man. So, masturbation, these guys say, can I masturbate on deployment? No. Can I masturbate to images of my wife if we're on FaceTime? Do you have to? Because it's not your wife, it's images of your wife. And this is the thing, I'm telling you right now, this is what happens. Guys, they come out here on deployment and they create or maybe reestablish a masturbation habit. Right? And then they go back home and they have that post-deployment sex and everything, and then they have the post-deployment sex. And then after a month or two, she says, not tonight, or I'm tired. And a couple of nights in a row, what ends up happening, the guy will say, one, I don't like being rejected. Two, matter of fact, I don't like the feeling of asking because I shouldn't have to ask. And now I feel like I'm begging. And now I'm impatient. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to ask you anymore. And what do they do? I'm telling you right, this is what happens. What do? They stop asking her. And I know how to take care of this. And they'll go get on their smartphone or the laptop or whatever, and they'll watch porn and they'll masturbate. Translate what just happened.
Sex outside marriage.
You're saying, I don't need you for this. I can take care of this myself. Now tell me how healthy that is. Who can't wait to get married just so you can do that to your wife? Do that to yourself. This is where we're headed unless we change this. Sandy? Agreement? What?
Anyway, you remember Lamar Odom? He was a professional basketball player with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
A few years ago, he almost died in a brothel. He was married to Khloe Kardashian or whatever, but he was in a brothel. He had taken a lot of, what's the sex Viagra, and almost died in a brothel because of
Yeah.
Viagra and trying to
Stay erect.
erect the entire, like,
Yeah, he talked about that later on. Like, man, this stuff almost killed me because he was a poon hound. That's all he wanted was sex, and that's all he talked about was sex. And he said, "Man, I love sex. I gotta have sex. I'm a sex addict." Matter of fact, he took all his Viagra so he can maintain an erection, so he can have sex in his whorehouse. And he had a heart attack. He OD'd on Viagra. He didn't die, but he talked about it afterwards. He's like, "Yeah, I had a wake up call." So masturbation bad, and you don't. I promise you, you don't. You don't have to masturbate. You don't. You can break this habit. It's a fight. I get it. I understand it's a fight, but just don't give up the fight. Never give into it. And just about everyone I minister to tell me they have these feelings of remorse and shame and regret immediately after they've masturbated, after they've ejaculated. It's common. You should feel bad. You should. You're supposed to. Woe be damned if you don't feel bad anymore because something's wrong with you now. You've crossed that line where you don't care anymore. So, size. I promise you, the size, God didn't make a mistake with the size that he gave you. To not be satisfied with your size. They have this thing now called penis. No, it's penis envy. That's what it's called. Penis envy. Now, where do guys get penis envy from? Definitely porn. Or, I don't know, they're taking showers, whatever, because guys, we take showers together, whatever, in the men's locker room, and you're checking out other guys, and you're like, well, I'm not like that. Well, you're not supposed to be like that. And oh, man. Look, there's so much I want to say here. What God gave you is not a mistake. And if you're suffering from penis envy, it's because you believed a lie. Just ask God, did he make a mistake with what he gave you? And what you also need to understand is that for satisfaction to a woman is about half an inch to an inch inside of her vagina. That's about it. And there is climax. I said climax. I didn't say ejaculation. There's climax. And there's pleasure. But some of these guys, I know some guys talking about, I got to get them guts. If you ain't getting any guts, you ain't getting, you ain't really laying the pipe and all that other crap. You guys know what I'm talking about. They talk all this trash. And most women who are healthy will tell you, men with large penises, it's very, very painful. And if you meet a woman who says, I got to have a foot long, she's an idiot. She's an idiot. She's damaged goods. I promise you she's damaged goods. And let me say, I got to say this too. We had a guy who, he was a personal friend of ours. And he retired from the Navy. And I didn't know you could do this. But he had retired from the Navy, got a good job over here, married to a Japanese woman. And dude, next thing I know, he's in the brig. And I'm ministering to him in the brig. And I'm like, what the heck happened? And I didn't know that they could take you off of retirement, put you on active duty, and court-martial your ass. They did that to him. And so now I'm talking to him, finding out what happened. And he said, well, because he got caught at like a Lawson's or a Family Mart on CCTV flashing a dildo to high school girls walking by. And he would be leaning down in his car and the girls would walk by and he'd flash a dildo at him. And then we asked him why, and he said, well, first of all, I thought that if they saw a penis, they'd be turned on and they'd want to be with me, because that's what they do. If a woman sees a penis, done, gotcha. And so that's a lie. But then he said, and another reason is because, my wife and I, we don't have sex because she said I have a small penis. In my 61 years of life, I've only known one woman to say that about her husband. And Sandy and I went and talked to her and said, did you tell him he had a small penis? She said, yeah. And she said, there's more to the story, though. She said, he's my second husband. And so when we got married, every day over the last 5, 7, 8 years, every single day, he's all following me around. Was your first husband bigger than you? Was your first husband better than me? Did he have a bigger one? Did he satisfy you the way I can? Every single day for 5, 6, 7 years. And so she finally got tired of it. And she said, yes, so what? And all he heard was yes. And he felt inferior. And he screwed his whole life up. A mess. So what I'm getting at, most women are not bragging about demanding penis size. If you hear a woman demanding penis size, I promise you she's baggage. Get away from her. She's been used and abused. I'm telling you right now, I said that and I'll stand by it. So, and if you're sitting there bragging, or not bragging, but complaining about your penis size, get before the Lord. Because God did not make a mistake with what he gave you. It's like saying, God, you made a mistake. No, you didn't. And stop comparing yourself to other people. STDs, I don't leave that, sexually transmitted diseases. I'm going to finish this up. We're almost done. Let me just finish this and we'll be done for the night. Where STDs are concerned, I want you to understand something. You know, when someone gets herpes or gets gonorrhea or chlamydia or syphilis or something like that, the term is he contracted that disease. You ever heard this? He contracted AIDS. He contracted syphilis. What? Why do they use the term contract? What's a contract? It was an agreement. Yeah, I mean, I promise you, if I'm walking down the street, syphilis isn't just going to jump on me without my permission. That's not how that works. You contracted, you agreed to do something and you got poisoned. And so, and this is how this affects you. You may not know this, and some people bring this up, and then some people will say, I'm developing a relationship with a girl right now. Am I supposed to tell her that I have AIDS? Are you? See, the fact that we're having so much confusion about this right now, some saying, yeah, no, yes, legally, I don't know. Dude, this is happening everywhere. But are you obligated to tell her? If you told her you have AIDS, how much farther is that relationship going to go? It's probably going to stop right there. So at some point, you're going to have to tell her, but you don't say, walk over to her and say, yo, hey, chica, mira, hey, I seen you from across the room, baby girl, hey, what's your digits, hey, by the way, I got AIDS, can we talk? No, that's stupid. You don't, come on. There comes a time when you're going to have to share that with your partner if you're developing a relationship. We had a staff sergeant over here marrying a Japanese girl, and the Japanese woman called us up, friends of ours. She said, tell him to shut up. I like him. Tell him to shut up. I said, what's he doing? He's telling me about he had, what was it, last year? He contracted something last year, and he's telling me about it. And then 5 years ago, he got this. And I don't care. I didn't ask him about that. I like him. I want to marry him. So we had to tell him, knock it off. But a lot of times this is what guys do. I'm just trying to keep it real. No, you're not. No, you're not. If anything, you're keeping it real damn dumb. And most of the times when guys when guys call themselves keeping it real and they're giving this girl, their wife, this information, what are they really doing?
Bragging.
Not quite bragging. What are they really doing? Is it for her benefit or is it for theirs? It's for my benefit because I want my conscience clean, so I'm going to just vomit on you. I can't tell you how many times someone in the brig got caught with something, and then the men, they get caught, and they're in the brig now, they're married, lose their careers. I'm talking about E1s through 06s. They get caught, they get busted for sexual stuff, and then they're relieved. Old men, young men, white, black, it doesn't matter, Hispanic, they're relieved. They're like, oh, I'm so glad it's finally, it's exposed now. Why? Because now I can get help. Now I can get help. And then, honey, I got to tell you everything. And so they tell the wife everything. And the husband's like, oh, I feel so good. I've been carrying this for 20 years. I just now, I feel good. What does his wife feel like? She's devastated. She don't. Who are you? Who did I marry? And so guys are doing this for the wrong reason. You're divulging this information for the wrong reason. You take your time with that. You don't just out of the gate with that stuff. And I promise you, God will tell you when to release that information. You do have to talk about it at some point. But marry her first and then tell her. I mean, but see, and then let me tell you, I got to tell you this, is that a lot of times, this is going to be bad. Herpes, for example. I don't know if you guys know about herpes or not, but it shows up periodically. Like, initially when you get it, it shows up like, once a month or maybe 3 or 4 times a year. All right. Now let's say you get married, and let's say you've given your wife herpes, and you guys are married now. And where's the tension? See if you guys can think this through. Where's the tension?
You don't know when you got it or when she got it, or why she got it.
Well, you got it first and you gave it to her.
She doesn't know when.
Now it's 5 years later. You've been married 5 years. How is this still going to haunt you? Because when it comes back and you have an outbreak, I'm telling you right now, these guys, they'll talk about, I'm back to the day where it happened and I contracted herpes, and the shame and the guilt. I live with it every time it shows up. And then I'm embarrassed to talk to her about it because every time I talk to her about it, I have to admit that I screwed up again. And so it's a recurring pain. It's a recurring nightmare. And you have to deal with it every time. And they become secrets. And then sometimes guys won't say anything to his wife. And she's trying to make sexual advances, but he's got an outbreak, so he don't want to say anything to her. And so what is she thinking? Why are you rejecting me? Is he getting it somewhere else? But no, he's in pain because he doesn't want to talk about it. This dynamic happens all the time with STDs. We've got guys who've gotten, oh my gosh, so many guys. We had a warrant officer. He was over here. He went TAD to Texas, Marine Corps. And he called me up in the middle of the night. Pastor, pray for me. I'm in trouble. I said, what happened? He said, I'm at my brother's house in Texas, and we went out drinking, and we came home, and his daughter's over here, and her friend was over here, and I just put the blanket on her, and she woke up. She looked cold. What do you know right away? Very suspicious. I don't believe you for a second. And she woke up, and apparently he was taking pictures of her under the blanket and things like this. And she woke up and crazed all kind of hell. And his wife is over here wondering, what's going on? My husband's in jail right now. And the command is trying to, they just pause everything on him because his ass is going to jail. So they hold him in jail for a couple days. He gets released from jail. And then they send him back to Okinawa. They take him out of his job, his command does. And he's in limbo for like 6 months. And Texas drops the charges. He's guilty as all get out, but they dropped the charges. Why? Because they couldn't get his phone open. That's the only thing that saved his butt. Got another guy, went TAD, and got chlamydia from a girl. Brought it home, gave it to his wife. Got another guy, went to Thailand, and came back, and my wife and I talked to her. She shared with us what happened, and she said, my husband went on exercise in Thailand, and while he was in Thailand, the Lord showed me that my husband is playing around and that he's going to contract a disease, and that when he comes back, make him wear a condom. Insist that he wears a condom. And so the Spirit of the Lord told me, make him wear a condom. I did not make him wear a condom. Guys, why did she not insist he wear a condom? Ladies probably understand this. Not you. You know this already. Guys, why wouldn't she wear a condom when she knows the Spirit of God said he's got a disease and he's going to give it to you if you sleep with him without a condom?
She did something.
Say it.
You would think she did something.
Yeah, because if this is what she's thinking, this is how women think. They always think about the man more than they think about themselves. Unlike men who think about themselves and very little about their women. And so she thought that if I make him wear a condom, he's going to be suspicious that I have something. Putting his interest in front of hers. And so she slept with him. She worked at the Naval Hospital. And so she had to go get tested in front of her co-workers. All her co-workers knew she had STD and that her husband gave it to her. And so she came back positive, and she went to her husband and said, you know anything about this? And what did he do? He lied about it. He said, nope. You didn't see me in the shower. Wasn't me. He denied it right to her face. And what does that do for the relationship? We're talking about STDs. That's all we're talking about. It shatters it, man. I think they went through 4 or 5 years of mess, but they turned a corner. I think they worked it out. But anyway, let me wrap this up. Let me see. Female stuff is about the same thing. I got to say this. Okay, same thing with the female sexual organ. They have a vagina. Congratulations, it's a girl. Huh? Same thing. Identity and a hymen. The hymen, a lot of people don't know what a hymen is, but females, humans, primates, lower primates don't have a hymen. Human females have hymens. What a hymen is, and some of you guys don't know, I mean, women who don't even know what a hymen is. A hymen is a thin, pinkish, membranous skin that covers a vaginal opening. They're born with it. It has no biological function. So why did God put it there? It's her seal of authenticity. It's proof that she's a virgin. That's what it's for. And then when that thing is penetrated, it breaks and it bleeds. It's a contract. It's a covenant. And so there's that. And then even if you read 22:15, parents they call these things tokens of virginity. So basically, if they were parents and they gave their daughter away and she was a virgin, on her wedding night, in the morning, what the parents were obligated to do was get them sheets with the blood on it and put them away. That way, if any time in the future they were accused of marrying off a daughter who was tainted or not a virgin, then the parents had evidence. Those are the tokens of her virginity. This is how important this was. And so, I told you about the staining and the marking. That's what happens. Male DNA stains and gets in her system. Where breasts are concerned, hallelujah. Where breasts are concerned, The Bible is very clear about this. It says that you, the husband, you should be satisfied. Her breast shall satisfy you all the days of her life. This is a good thing. You're supposed to be attracted to your wife. I have to say this. Where some of you guys have heard me say this to you before. When I sometimes before you leave, I'll say, give me some nipple. You guys ever heard me say this? I just play around. I say, boom, you guys leaving? Boom, give me some nipple. Bam, nipple on you. Give me some nipple. This comes from this teaching right here. What does this mean? Understand, let me see, how do I want to do this? God, one of God's names is El Shaddai. El Shaddai. Anybody know what that means? Some of you should know. El Shaddai. It's translated as all-sufficient one or many-breasted one. Now that's curious to me because when I think of many-breasted one, I'm thinking God has a lot of titties. So I'm thinking, and I'm like, I mean, that's the picture that you get. Man, why is he many-breasted one? But it's such a beautiful thing when you understand why they're given this picture. He's the all-sufficient one, the many-breasted one. When a woman, first of all, when her breasts, they're attractive, they're beautiful, they're supposed to be. But then when she has a baby, this is where it gets so beautiful. When she has a baby, there's a couple things that begin to happen. She begins to produce milk. It's called lactating, and she produces milk in her breasts. And so what ends up happening? She meets the needs of that baby from something that's produced inside of her, and then the baby latches on, and the baby's breastfeeding. There's this thing called oxytocin. It's a chemical that males and females, we produce oxytocin, but women produce more. And oxytocin is referred to as the bonding chemical. The bonding chemical, and what that means is it's like a adrenaline or something else. What's the other one? Dopamine. It's like a dopamine hit type of thing. Yeah, serotonin. All. And so when she's breastfeeding, oxytocin is released, and it gives her a euphoric feeling. It goes through her belly, it goes through everything. It just fills her, and there's an attachment with the baby, and so the mom enjoys this moment. It's called the bonding chemical, and so it's very, very healthy. This is very important because where oxytocin is concerned, science has proven and studies have shown that women who have multiple sexual partners produce less and less oxytocin. So with your first sexual partner, she produces healthy amounts of oxytocin. She bonds to him greatly, which means it hurts more because she went from A to B to C to E. And so when she went to B, she produces less oxytocin. When she goes to C, less. D, less. E, less. She finally meets you, Mr. Right. She's not producing healthy amounts of the bonding chemical, oxytocin. This is bad. Yeah? And so she can be recovered, but it's going to take some time for her to build up trust. She holds back every time. Why does she hold back? Because I've been hurt. I don't want to be hurt again. He hurt me. These two hurt me. I don't want him to hurt me, so I'm guarded now. Right? Well, where oxytocin is concerned, let me finish this up, is, and El Shaddai and all this other stuff, when a woman is breastfeeding, she's producing all this oxytocin and she's bonding with the baby. She can hear a baby crying. If mom is lactating, she could be in the mall and she could be alone, but she hears another baby crying. There's something that in her that just is stimulated and produces oxytocin. It's not even her baby, and she begins to produce to meet that need. This is a gift from God. Now, the reason why, what does this have to do with El Shaddai? Here, I got to say one more thing. When a woman, if she's lactating and the baby doesn't latch on properly, she becomes engorged, which means her breasts become full of milk and they become big. And it's painful. And a woman that's why they come up with these breast pumps and whatnot, so you have to extract the milk because it's painful to the mom. And where God is concerned, just understand this, he's called the many-breasted one, which means a lot of times we'll be down here in pain and we'll be down here crying. And God hears us. He knows we're in pain. And I believe that God begins to produce what we need. Automatically, he produces what we need. The problem is we never latch on to God properly. We don't latch on right. And when we don't latch on right, I really believe it pains God because he becomes somewhat engorged with nutrients and blessings that we need, and we don't know how to receive them. We can't receive them. This is where I get this give me some nipple stuff. Because it's a play on words here, but it's kind of true. The last thing where kissing is concerned, is it okay to kiss while dating? You guys got 10 more minutes? I'll be done in 10 minutes. Is it okay to kiss while dating? What do you think? Yes or no? He don't know. He says yeah. He says yeah. What do you think? What do you think? Maybe? What type of kissing? You know, dude, we're dating, buddy.
Kiss on the head. Kiss on the forehead.
A kiss on the forehead. So a lot of people wonder this, and they wonder. I don't have to wonder about it anymore because I used to wonder. And when we had 3 daughters, I didn't wonder about it anymore. The answer is no. Now, as a dad with 3 daughters, why do I say no? I'm going to get upset here in just a second. Why?
Kissing leads to sex.
Huh?
Kissing leads to sex.
Not necessarily, but yes. You're being nice. I'll tell you why.
Well, it's like it starts a fire.
Really? I set you up for that? And I was like, wah, wah, wah. Wow. No, I'm going to tell you why. Let me tell you why, because I got to finish this up. I'll tell you why. These are my 3 daughters, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't allow you to kiss them. I don't give you permission to kiss them because she does not belong to you. She's not yours. And some of you, I've had young people tell me, oh, you're just so square, you were born in a box. What a prude. And they'll tell me this stuff like, you're old school. I said, well, let me make this real simple for you. Let me put this in your lap. And I give the scenario. Let's say there's 5 of us right here. And we're going to the commissary for a loaf of bread. It's up there on the thing. We're going up to the commissary for a loaf of bread. And the 5 of us get there, and there's loaf A, B, C, D, and E. There's only 5 loaves left. I'm first in line. And I go to loaf A, and I open it up, and I smell it, and I put my hand in there, and I squeeze it all around, and I pull a piece out and taste it a little bit. I put it back in there, wrap it back up, and I grab loaf B, and I walk away. Which loaf would you grab?
Definitely not A.
So you get C. What would you get? D. What would you get?
F.
F. You saw what I did to A. Would you get A?
I'm stuck with it.
He said, I'm stuck with A. See, here we are, we're exercising discretion over a stupid loaf of bread, a hypothetical loaf of bread. Yeah, we overlook body counts and stuff like this. This is some heavy stuff, I know. And so when where kissing is concerned, I don't recommend it. Not my daughters either, because they don't belong to you. Now, if you want to kiss her, because this is what the young people say, well, it's just a kiss. It's just a kiss. You're full of crap. I know it. You just don't know it. And they say, what are you talking about? I said, well, let me ask you something. If it's just a kiss, would you kiss your grandmother the way you want to kiss my daughter? Would you stick your tongue down your grandmother's throat?
Tom Brady.
Would you? And they're like, oh no. So stop it. It's not just a kiss. There are some things like a holy kiss and a holy greeting and things like that. But that ain't the kind of kiss you're trying to do on my daughter. And what you guys were saying is true. What do you know about a kiss? What do kisses do? Like a tongue kiss. What does that do? Boy, that thing gets you going. You already know it gets you going. This is why Corinthians talks about it's good for a man not to touch a woman. You study that out in the Greek. When it says touch a woman, it means do not touch a woman in a way as to start a fire. I mean, it's stupid not to think you can't hug a woman, touch a woman, shake her hand and stuff like that, come in contact with a woman. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about touching her in a way as to get that fire going. Because you get that fire going, you can't put it out, and then you go too far. I mean, more couples, officers, enlisted couples who are dating, and they set up all these boundaries, but then they bypass all their boundaries, and then they go, we messed up. It's rare to find a couple that can date and abstain and have just, I'll get to this next week. I ran out of time. These 2 characters, that first one is all jacked up. That other one's a little bit stronger. I'll get to that. That's what I'm talking about right now. So, let's stand up. We're done.